Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. We're going to kick off tonight with day 3 of the Derek Chauvin trial, former Minneapolis police officer facing murder charges over the death of George Floyd. Tonight, we will show you highlights from the testimony inside the courtroom. We'll explain the charges facing Chauvin and also show you the entire 9 minutes and 29 seconds that the officer had his knee on Floyd's neck. There has been new video that's come out through the trial. You'll be able to see those angles and basically the whole tragic event in its context. It is, I warn you, difficult to watch, but we believe it gives you a good sense of what really happened that fateful day. Our legal panel, they will also be here for expert analysis of the case. Several eyewitnesses, they took the stand again today, including one of the last people to speak with Floyd before he got arrested, the clerk who took the fake 20 that Floyd tried to use to buy cigarettes. Prosecutors also releasing, for the first time, video from inside that convenience store. And the clerk, Christopher Martin, he was asked what was going through his mind as he saw Floyd pinned to the ground.
We saw you standing there with your hands on your head for a while, correct?
Correct.
What was going through your mind during that time period?
Disbelief and guilt.
Okay. Why guilt?
If I would have just not taken the bill, this could have been avoided.
Martin also described what he witnessed when he left the store to see what was going on outside.
George was motionless, limp, and Chauvin seemed he was in a resting state, meaning like he just rested his knee on his neck.
And what did you do when you saw that?
I pulled my phone out first and I called my mom and told her not to come downstairs, and then I started recording.
Martin also said he deleted the video after he realized that Floyd had died. By the way, Martin, he's only 19, making him one of the many young witnesses we have heard from this week. Another was a minor who took the stand yesterday. She was walking with her 9-year-old cousin when they came upon the scene.
I heard George Floyd saying, "I can't breathe, please get off of me. I can't breathe." He cried for his mom. He was in pain. It seemed like he knew. It seemed like he knew it was over for him.
Please tell the ladies and gentlemen, who is this?
This was the officer that was kneeling on George Floyd's neck.
On May 25th?
Yes.
Is this the way he appeared when you saw him on May 25th, kneeling on George Floyd's neck?
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, I would say everyone were reacting multiple different ways from what they were seeing, which it wasn't right. We all know it wasn't right.
Also today, a man who was there from the start during the arrest, he was shown video of Floyd getting loaded into the police car, struggling, screaming, and saying he couldn't breathe. That video was so powerful, the man broke down crying after watching it.
Oh my God.
He not the only grown man to break down in tears this week while on the stand. Donald Williams, he's an MMA fighter who was on the scene that day, and as you can see from the video, wiping away tears after prosecutors played part of the 911 call that he placed to report what was happening in front of him to Floyd. Williams also explaining what he saw as Floyd was being restrained.
On a blood choke, you would tack the side of the neck, and which you're in a Kimura or side chokes or things like that. You want to tack the side of the neck to cut the circulation of the breathing from your person, and then to get the choke tighter, you hit different shimmies, which I felt the officer on top was shimmying to actually get the final choke in while he was on top to get the kill choke.
Kill choke. One last clip before I bring in my guest, and this is from Chauvin's attorney. You'll hear the defense that he is using for his client.
Derek Chauvin did exactly what he had been trained to do over the course of his 19-year career. The use of force is not attractive, but it is a necessary component of policing.
And for more, let's bring in some familiar faces. Our legal panel, Jim Kousouros, criminal defense attorney in Manhattan, sitting on the board of directors of the bar of the New York City Bar Association. Also, Jimmy frequently lectures at New York Law School, Bar Association's Queens in New York City. Mayo Bartlett, an attorney at the law offices of Mayo Bartlett PLLC and former chief of the Bias Crimes Unit at the Westchester County DA's office, and also helped craft some of the new plans for policing going forward. Guys, you've been on both sides of this, each of you. You were former prosecutors, now defense attorneys. I thought I knew, having seen the video, what to expect, but I have been surprised at just how impactful the testimony has been, how people, numerous people, young and old, in between, have been moved to tears that were there that day. The video itself and the different vantage points that we are seeing for the first time through this trial. For hardened guys like yourself, have you found it to be the same way? Jimmy, I'll start with you as to just how powerful some of the early days of this trial has been.
I found it to be very impactful and very powerful. You know, just to start off, Rich, 9 minutes in a courtroom is an eternity. You know, and when you play a 9-minute video of a man being leaned on with that kind of blood choke as the Donald Williams, the MMA fighter, described, and you sit in a courtroom in silence for 9 minutes watching this man die, and then you have these witnesses, the young lady who took the video, who was so compelling, and then you have these witnesses, you know, honestly, in our criminal trials, from unexpected sources. You have an off-duty firefighter, somebody in law enforcement, who testifies how she was begging the police to take this man's pulse. When you have, you know, the other gentleman who wanted to intervene so badly as he watched this officer for 9 minutes not only have his knee on Mr. Floyd's neck, but adjusting his knee to make sure that the pressure was continuously applied. This is riveting and compelling testimony, which just brings life to this 9-minute striking and just awful video. So I have found the testimony along with the video to be very, very compelling and very, very impactful from a human standpoint and also as a trial lawyer from a legal standpoint. You know, Mayo, and as Jimmy said, it's run the gamut from the perspectives that were there that day in Minneapolis. You had, as Jimmy mentioned, bystanders. You saw somebody who came by who was an expert in CPR who offered help and was refused, and how upset and angry she was because she saw the life draining out of George Floyd. You had little kids, a 9-year-old who testified, teenagers, and then you had an elderly man breaking down today, talking as he was just feet away from Floyd because he saw the life draining out. But I also thought there was an important moment when the 911 dispatcher felt the need to literally alert supervisors as to what was going on the ground. For folks who missed it, let me play that clip.
You can call me a snitch if you want to, but we have the cameras up for 320's call. 320 over at Cup Foods. I don't know if they had used force or not. They got something out of the back of the squad, and all of them sat on this man.
I first asked if the screens had frozen. My instincts were telling me that something's wrong. Something has not right. If this was a form of use of force, I was calling to let them know.
Mayo, it seems that just about everybody knew that was there, that this was a foreseeable tragedy that was unfolding, and it didn't have to be that way. For a layperson, I don't you believe that's kind of the message the jury is seeing time and time again with every clip and every piece of testimony they're hearing?
Well, I think that what's different here is that it's going to be very difficult for the defense to suggest that it was plausible to believe that the officer was in harm's way or that Mr. Floyd did anything that required the type of intervention that actually occurred. And it really, is actually perhaps the best evidence as to why we need to embrace active bystandership for law enforcement. And ABLE, which is out of Georgetown Law, is providing that training and actually providing it free of charge to law enforcement organizations throughout the country. And it empowers all members of law enforcement to intervene. In fact, it imposes a duty to intervene if they see misconduct and malfeasance, even if you're the lowest ranking member of the force and you are dealing with the chief. So I think that that's critical. But the other thing that is critical is that we have body cameras that they have to be worn all the time, and that people feel empowered as members of society to step up and to intervene, and that they're comfortable recording things, but perhaps even in cases like this, that they would be comfortable doing a bit more. Again, for a dispatcher to feel the need to contact a sergeant concerning the actions of an officer is remarkable. And despite the fact that she contacts that sergeant, to have nothing occur and to have 3 other officers sit by and watch as Mr. Floyd is killed is outrageous. So it shows a clear need to reimagine what law enforcement is, to look at reform, and to scrutinize who the members of law enforcement actually are. Again, this Officer Chauvin was a training officer. He's the one that the other officers were to be looking to. And 2 of the other officers had 2 or less weeks on the job. So they are, on the one hand, looking to this officer for guidance, but on the other hand, they're sworn officers, and their duties to uphold the law and to protect people and to stop crime from happening, even when the criminal is one of their own.
You know, obviously, I've been surprised, and I'll get your take on this in a second, that it seems that this would be a slam dunk case, but every attorney I talk to, guys say no, because it's going to be, was Chauvin's actions responsible or reasonable, and also, did his actions cause Floyd's death? I'm going to get to that in a second, but you're talking about law enforcement. I had on last night Chief Philip Banks, who was the top uniform officer at one point in the NYPD, obviously the biggest police unit in this country. He said it's in no handbook what Chauvin did that day. Does any police handbook say for as long as he did, he should have been keeping his knee on the back of his neck?
No, and when the defense presents their argument, I think the whole world is going to see that that has nothing to do with training. Out of all of the controversial actions that have taken place in policing, this incident, from my personal experience, I have more police officers who have said, this is not who we are.
Okay, guys, so the threshold, Jimmy, to say that what Chauvin did, and he's looking at 3 different charges right now. He's looking at manslaughter, second-degree, and third-degree murder charges. First of all, give me the strategy standpoint. Why would the prosecution charge him with multiple crimes, and what are the thresholds that they've got to prove to a jury here in terms of securing a conviction?
Well, you charge several different crimes when you can posit theories based on the facts that can support one or the other. And so a prosecutor does not want to charge one crime and then be presented with all or nothing, so that if one element is not proven sufficiently or is sufficiently attacked, you have an outright acquittal. You know, in a situation like this, there are several different theories upon which a jury can convict. And, you know, prosecutors will often charge a murder and then charge a lesser included offense to the effect that, you know, if the jury were to find that the actions of the officer were not with the intention to actually kill him, but to assault him or to harm him, and that assault resulted in his death, then it would be the lesser included charge of a manslaughter. So that's the strategy here. If you just indict for the top count, then you run the risk that a jury will acquit of just that, and you've presented an all or nothing situation to a jury.
And up next, the panel is going to stick around. We're going to discuss the legal strategies both sides are using and also dig deeper into the charges facing Chauvin.